All right, everyone. So in the last one, we talked about using a canvas to interact with things. This time, we also talked about how it's kind of harder to have kind of like an overlay that kind of follows you around. But like, let's say you have a world where you want to be able to, for instance, every time. So in this world that I have a bunch of little capsules here. And every time I click on one, and I'll talk about how we set this up, I have a little script that basically removes. Okay. So if you select it with your Ray interactor, it'll make the item disappear. And what I want to do is I want to have like a score. It starts at 0, and every time I pick up an item, like this, it adds 1 to my score, and I want to be able to see it. Okay. So we're going to try to build something like that here. Okay. So I just to kind of give you an idea of the world we got, I have a basic XR origin right here. It has your standard, there's a little raycaster. And I have these capsules, okay? And each capsule is set to be XR grabbable, okay? And what I've done is I have a script here. So this did require a little bit of script. I have a script for you guys. One is called score and one is called remove item, okay? So remove item is a class that I created, and basically I built a little function that says destroy game object. What destroy game object means is it'll take the object and remove it from the game permanently. It's not the same as turning it off or on, because if you turn it off or on, the object is still there. This like entirely removes it, okay? And so what I did here is I've set it up that if you click on, if something is interactable, when you select it, it should remove it, okay? So in other words, it's gonna, every time you select it, each one of these has the same settings, it'll remove that object from the world. I've also set up another script here, and this kind of goes back, we did this a little bit with user interaction in 4.2.7 and during my review. What we're gonna do is we're gonna build a text variable that can update during the game, okay? And to do this, we're gonna take advantage of TextMesh Pro, okay? So up here, see how it says using TM Pro? What that basically means is that, remember, each one of these are like sort of code packages that we can kind of add to our world and kind of take advantage of it. So TextMesh Pro has its own set of variables that we can kind of take, or sorry, not variables, but functions and such that we can take advantage of. And that's what this is for. What I'm doing here is I'm building a piece of text, okay, called score text, and it's a special variable type. It's a TextMesh Pro UGI, which basically means it's a variable that can appear in your game, okay? And what I'm doing is I've also set up another, so this is the thing that we're going to see in the game that tells us what our score is, essentially, okay? And then I have another variable, which is just a integer or a number. And this is going to be the score that you start with. I called it items. You can call it whatever you want. And let's just set it to 0. Okay. And so if you remember, the way that C# works, at least with Unity, is that this start function runs immediately when the game runs. And so what we've done is we've built a special this is a special TextMesh Pro object, okay? And one of the properties of TextMesh Pro objects is you can set the text, or what the text is equal to. And what I'm saying is when the game starts, tell the player that they have a score of, and then whatever this is. So once again, this is sort of, variable substitution. So it should say, at least at the beginning right now, score is equal to 0, okay? I also made another function called update score. I just made up the name. You can call it whatever you want. And what it does is it basically takes this variable and it adds 1 to it. You could either write it like this, or, this is a shortcut. You could also write it like this. They both would do the same thing. Make sure there's a semicolon. So what I'm doing is I'm updating my score, and then I'm saying, okay, not only are we going to update that, update this text to reflect the new score. So in other words, it starts at 0, and then when I select an item, I'm going to run this, which changes the score from 0 to 1, and then is going to change the user interface text from 0 to 1. Okay. So I'm going to save that. So I just wanted to show you guys that so you kind of understood what I was doing there. Give me a sec. Almost there. All right. So on each of these capsules, oops, almost. Give me a second. False start. Oops. Serialized object. Is it mad at me about something? It's missing workman's exception. No, that should be fine. Okay. All right. So what's happening here is that each of my capsules is set under the rigid body or the grab interactive. I had to add the remove script to this. So I added the remove script so that, and so what I did is let me just show you how I did this. Remember, the remove script is what deletes the item. I added it to the item, and then when I go under here, let's just say for the sake of argument, I wanted to remove the item. Oops. I'm going to say on select. Let's take this. Since the script is applied to this, now we should have access to remove item. Use the remove item function. Okay. And same thing happens here. So I have, I think I may have added the script before. Let me see what it is. Oh, okay. So what I actually did is I added that update score to the I added it to the rig itself. The reason I added it to the rig is the rig isn't going anywhere. So this way, I can always keep track and it never goes away. So anyway, so that's what's happening here. So let's do the same thing. I'm going to take this, drag in the rig, and then I want to run that score function, update score. And I'm going to be honest, I need to run this before I run this, because if you remove the item, then you can't run the other script on it. So let's do it like that. So it's going to update the score first and then delete it. And all this is going to happen like pretty instantaneous. Okay. And each one of these items is set up this way. Okay. You don't have to, I'm just showing you how I did it. Don't worry if you don't have to set it up yourself, but in case you want to try to recreate something like this in your own world, this is how I did it. Okay. So if I were to come in, I'd be able to select this and it would, add to my score and it remove each item. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to have a little canvas that basically kind of sits on the arm. And so that if you and the idea is it'll sort of tell the audience or tell the player what their score is. So what I'm going to do is let's add a new canvas. Okay. And I'm going to call this player canvas. And once again, we get this giant thing. I kind of want it more of like a rectangle. So I'm going to say, let's make it like 300 by, I don't know, 150 maybe. And once again, it's still really, really big. So I'm just going to shrink it. All right, so I have this canvas and I'm going to shrink it down. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to put this onto the wrist of the character. I have a controller that has a little hand icon. And I'm going to put it eventually kind of like here. Okay. But before I do that, I want to set up an element here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put UI text. Okay. And this is the text that's going to be the score. Okay. I'll just call it score, and I'm just going to set the text color at the moment, just so we can kind of see what it looks like. So like I could put an outline on it or an underlay. Oops. There you go, see that little drop shadow there. All right, I'm gonna put this, so this is the text, and I want this to line up with the score text here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this canvas and I'm gonna add the score text, okay? Actually, sorry, I've already added it here. Now notice how the score text variable that we created, it doesn't have any. I'm going to take this and I'm going to call this, let's call this score UI, just to give it a name. And I'm going to place that right into here. Okay. Now what this means is that whatever this value is, the items, the score text, that value is going to play out through this. Okay. So what actually would happen is if I hit play, you will see that it's going to say like score 0. Give it a second. Yeah, it says score 0. Okay. All right. So, and if I change the score to like 10 and I did it again, it would say score 10. Okay. So there you go. Now, how do we get this onto the player? Well, what I'm going to do, let's take this and I'm going to actually attach it to the ray indicator. Okay. So I'm going to come out. I'm going to shrink this down. It's still very, very large. So let me use the scale. And I'm just gonna kind of highlight the hand here. Okay. So there's the canvas, there's the hand. If I click on the canvas, you can actually see that its position is very off. So I'm going to change this from to 0, 0, 0. Okay. And you can see now that the canvas is right on the hand. I actually kind of want to rotate it so it's kind of in line with the hand. So I'm going to rotate this 90 to, oops, wrong element. Let's take the canvas and rotate it 90 degrees. Okay. And then I'm going to kind of take it and maybe kind of place it like there. Okay. Now what should happen is this is going to be attached to the hand, and anytime that my score changes or updates, I can just look at the ray indicator, the hand, that we've set up here, and I should be able to see our score. Okay. So this is kind of like how we can add sort of the following UI without it being, without having to have that kind of traditional overlay. All right, so let's try that out. All right, everyone, this is exercise 7. So I just wanted to show you, you can see the score that I set up. See how it's set to 0. I'm gonna interact with these objects that when I click on them should get deleted from the scene and also add to the score. Okay. So you can see that it did that. So you could use this, what I'm doing here is to, basically set it up that, while we can walk around and move, there still is a way for the player to kind of, see the score. We could put text here. If this was like a game where you collect things, you could have like an inventory, or you know what I mean? So you can see how this could be used a lot of different ways to be able to give information to the player. Okay. So try that out. All right, all. So I want to kind of show another example of how we can kind of use that kind of personal user interface canvas. So what we're going to do in this scene is I have a rig, okay, just a basic rig, and it has 2 ray controllers on it, okay. If I were to play it, you'd be able to see it. And there's 2, and the way I've done this is that the left hand has like a hand on it, and then the right hand, I've turned it off temporarily. You can't really see it, but there's like this magic wand. Okay, see that magic wand model? That's the default model. And I also have a staff model that's like here. I'll turn this on. Okay. So the idea is like, let's say you're playing some game and I don't know, your default is you have a magic wand, and then we want to switch it to another item by using our kind of like an inventory on your hand. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So I'm just going to start with the staff off and the magic wand on. Okay. And what I'm going to do is let's add a new canvas. Once again, I'm going to do a UI canvas, and let's call it like, I don't know, inventory. Okay. And I'm going to make it like, once again, we have like, this giant thing. Let's do like 300 by 150 again. Oops. Accidentally asked.
I found this on the web.
Nope, you didn't find nothing on the web. There you go. All right. All right, so I'm just going to shrink this, and what I'm going to do is I want there to be 2 buttons. One that like turns on the one that basically turns on the staff and turns off the magic wand, and then another one that does the opposite, where it turns on the magic wand and turns off the staff. Okay. So I'm just going to build this, and I'm going to go to 2D mode just to kind of play around with it. And let's give it a background. So let's do panel. Okay. Just so I can easily see the buttons. And I'll just call it background. I'm fine with the sort of off-white, but if you want to change the color, you can kind of do that here. And I'm going to add a button. And I'm going to add a button. And let's call this button. So this is the button, this is the text, and let's set the text to that Gorditas, because why not? And I'm just going to call this magic wand. Okay. And the text is kind of big, so maybe in comparison to so I'm going to maybe lower that so there's more space. Okay. I'm going to click on the button itself, and I'm going to call this button the magic wand button. And, you know, these are the colors. So I'm going to say when it's highlighted, let's make the text red. Okay. The most important thing here is the on click. And what I'm going to do is click on that. And I'm going to say, okay, when someone clicks this, let's turn the magic wand. Let's make that active. And I'm going to add a second event that happens. And we're going to say, take the staff, and we're going to turn that off. Now, right now, that's already the way it's working, but let's pretend that we are working with the staff this would reverse it. Okay. What I'm going to do is just I'm going to duplicate this because I'm lazy. And let's call this staff. So I'm going to go under the text here. First, let's just like rename this. Let's call this magic staff button. Okay. And I don't know. Let's call this magic staff. Okay. I'm fine with the way it looks, so I'm not going to worry about that. But the main thing I want to do is when someone clicks on this button, I kind of want to do the opposite. So let's take the magic wand and turn that off. And I'll take the staff and turn that on. Okay. So basically what's happening with these two buttons here is that this one turns the magic wand on and the staff off, and this one turns the staff on and magic wand off. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is let's take this sort of canvas, and we're going to attach it just like we did in the last lab to the character. So I'm going to get out of 2D mode, and let's just shrink this down. And once again, I'm just going to add this to my character. I usually like to add it to the controller as a subset. Okay. So the way it's going to work is I want to add it to the right hand, and then I'm going to use my left Raycaster to be able to, we need to have two because basically you need to hold it while the other one shoots at it, essentially. If you're left-handed, you could do it the other way where you attach it to the left hand and use the right, Ray interactor. It's kind of up to you, but I just think it's more natural for non-left-handed people to have it on your right and then shoot your Ray at it. And so I'm going to take that and drag it here. Okay. And that attaches it. And I'm going to set this to 0, 0, 0. It's still kind of big, so I'm going to shrink this down some more. Okay. And once again, let's rotate this 90 degrees. So if I select the controller, there you go. So it's still kind of, it doesn't look, it's still kind of overlapping. So let's move this up. Still really big, or too big than I want. So let's make it like that. Okay. And I'm just kind of moving it so that like it's a little bit above the hand. Okay. Oops, yeah, that's fine. All right. Maybe we'll just set it to 0. I guess what we're doing here is I'm not even going to have like a hand. It's just going to be there. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and we'll try it out. And essentially what's going to happen is the controller will be over here. And then my left hand's going to have the Ray interactor, and I can point it at that. And when I click, it's going to basically switch between these two between these two items. Okay. So the idea is these items can have box model or, like box colliders, and I could use them to do various things. however you want to do it. You know, and you could use them to knock things over or interact with things or, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, so let's try this out. All right, everyone. So here you can see I have my magic wand. By default, this is exercise 8. I have my Raycaster here, and then here's my menu. So magic wand, magic staff. If I click on magic staff, switches to magic staff, and if I click back on magic wand. All right, so you can see here how it's like I have this sort of interactive inventory that I can kind of, you know, play around with here and, you know, be able to change things around and interact with them and things like that. Okay.